Today in our review portion, we're going to be talking about the Hitman's Bodyguard and Logan Lucky. Then in our Tube Talk portion, we're going to be talking about the newest episode of Game of Thrones and The Defenders, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. I'm here with Matt. Orange is the best hay.
Yeah, hey.
Got it? Yeah?
I totally got that.
You did. You said it. You said it.
It's true, and mine was in the similar vein where I was going to say, and I'm with Joel, should just basically own all the stock of LaCroix there is Cunningham.
They're very related.
Yes.
It's very related. Yeah, I'm providing you with these LaCroix now.
Rarely do I see you without LaCroix in your hand.
I have them hidden.
Yes.
They're all over the place. I need to have them. There's like a desire in my head that there has to be one within 10 feet of me at all times now.
You know, people have like a wine cellar, and Joel, you have like a LaCroix
I'm
cellar.
aging fine bottles of LaCroix down there.
Yeah, so what I'm drinking now is a fine 2016.
Yeah, there you go. And probably it was at Walmart, so they probably had them
possibly.
sitting there. They probably got a backlog of a bazillion of them. Yeah. So, welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So, we, as mentioned in the beginning, we're going to be talking about a couple films that Matt and I had a chance to see this weekend. And then we're going to be discussing some new stuff that's been happening in the television world in our Tube Talk segment, talking about Game of Thrones, right, Matt?
Got
and The Defenders, which is a awesome Marvel series that just premiered on Netflix.
Yeah, culmination
series. Stuff. And I'm having such a difficult time when they drop these giant shows that are like 8 to 10 episodes long and they're an hour episode.
You have to plan. You really have to plan for it. Like I knew it was happening and I was like, all right, well, what's my free time today? Okay, I have an hour on my lunch break. That's one episode.
Yeah.
I could watch half over my breaks.
Scheduling it all out
and then
there.
I could do another when I go to bed, maybe two more. Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy. So, anyway, here on the podcast, we like to do things a little bit fun, a little bit different. Matt, you're more of a fan of the films and the shows. You kind of enjoy the emotional side of things, the world building and the craziness that goes along with all that.
About, you know, what hits me in the feels.
It's the feels. It's the heart.
Yep, right in the heart.
The gooey little center.
Yep.
That's what hits you. And I'm more of the top of the head, intellectual, I don't know what you would call it, but I like to process and think through story and structure and analytical, that kind of a guy. So we combine those two thoughts to give you what we believe is a real and honest perspective on films and televisions, the two sides of the Rotten Tomato score.
For sure.
So, Matt, why don't you give our listeners some different ways to get connected here at the beginning?
Alrighty. Hey, listeners, you can get connected with us in a myriad of different ways. Do you like that vocab word?
Beautiful.
It is. Myriad.
Yeah.
So look it up if you don't know what it means. But you can find us on our website, realreviewmedia.com. We always got stuff posted up there, some new news items as it comes out through the week. We keep that thing updated. Then we also have our social media, interconnected universe of sorts with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, all at Real Review Media, facebook.com/Real Review Media. We keep that updated as well. We like to keep them varied a little bit so you get a little bit of different content if you're following all of them. So feel free to check that out. And then email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Let us know what's up. If there's something special you want us to review or to do whatever, movie out there that you really enjoy that maybe we didn't enjoy or something like that. If you want to tell Joel how Spider-Man Homecoming wasn't that bad.
You're bringing that up now, are you? You're going to bring that back?
You can do that there. But yeah, that's how you can get connected.
Maybe we should start talking about some shark films.
Shark films.
How amazing those are, right?
Yeah, how amazingly horrid. However, as much as I like them, I will tell you if it's bad or not.
True.
I will tell you that
you still give them a pass a lot of the time.
I do grade it a little bit higher because I'm like, oh, that was cool with the shark thing. Yeah, terrible story, whatever, but the shark.
But there's a shark there. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, then let's get into it.
Let's dive in.
All right. So we're going to start off to the shark.
Yep.
What if they did? That would have been actually really cool if they did. No, never mind. I was thinking about somehow they did like a zombie White Walker shark on Game of Thrones, but I don't think anything's like that. Like that's possible. There's not probably sharks in the Game of Thrones world.
But what if the White Walkers, they created a blue-eyed shark.
Well, I was thinking about that. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but because they spent some time under the water in this most recent
Pirates of the
episode.
Caribbean
So
had zombie sharks.
Maybe they grabbed hold of a couple sharks and
Yeah.
were, like munching on them, and then one turned into a zombie. I mean, could have happened.
You know,
I don't know if
anything
they're
can
sharks.
happen in this show.
I don't think they're that. They don't, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get into our film reviews. How about that, Matt? So
Do it.
I'm going to start things off.
Do it.
I'm going to be talking about a film called The Hitman's Bodyguard, which premiered this weekend. This synopsis for this one is: the world's top bodyguard gets a new client, a hitman who must testify at the International Court of Justice. They must put their differences aside and work together to make it to the trial on time. They being Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds, who are both stars of this film, amongst a bunch of other people.
Hey-o.
You also have this directed by Patrick Hughes. And then in addition to Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, you have Gary Oldman, Salma Hayek, Elodie Young, who I have just started to recognize from another show that debuted. We're going to be talking about The Defenders. And then, because I actually haven't seen season 2 of Daredevil, which she is Elektra, correct? I
Yes.
believe in season 2 of
Yes.
Defenders. So, I'm sorry, of Daredevil. And then you have another guy, Joaquim de Almeida. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it well, but he plays the agent, or I'm sorry, one of the, I forget the agency, but one of the British
Intelligence, MI6 or
intelligence
something?
kind of, like he's like one of the heads
Okay.
of the MI6 sort of a thing, and he's kind of like the guy that plays both sides. He's the spy, not the spy. He's like the undercover guy that's pretending to be the good guy that's actually the bad guy. It's, the very obvious.
You're the one guy who's playing the other guy who's pretending to be another guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going into this film, I didn't have super high expectations, and we talked about a lot of this in our coming soon segment. I think the biggest causes for concern for it was the film, just from the trailer, looked very, the plot looked very like standard, very formulaic, very like, okay, well, we know this is going to happen this way. That actually ended up being even worse in the movie.
Really?
For me. Yeah, it was even more formulaic
Sounds
and
exciting.
less. I was expecting there to be at least one kind of like twist type thing.
Yeah.
That maybe, they tried to keep under the cuff, but there was nothing like that.
Super straightforward.
Super duper straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like you knew, every single moment, like what every scene was going to resolve like and how it was going to happen. The other thing that was a bit of a cause for concern is, we have a director here that's not known for a lot of other projects right now. He's done The Expendables 3, and it's kind of like his other big major studio film, Patrick Hughes, and then the writer Tom O'Connor, who for the most part has no films, maybe one. I think there's one other credit for him on IMDb that I can recognize. And so, again, I don't want to come across as that super critical, like, well, because they've never done anything, that means that they're going to stink. But it is like a bit more open to like, well, I don't know how they're going to do because I've never seen
green.
Exactly. It's a big question mark more than anything. And I don't think that, I feel like, unfortunately, this film could have been a little bit better and more enjoyable for me if it had been in the hands of a more seasoned type director. I think somebody that understood how to put together that comedy and action in the same type. It really felt like there was distinct moments where it was like, okay, now I'm going to go for action. Now I'm going to go for comedy. And then there was a bit of a bleed between the two. I felt like the best part of this film, and I'm trying to talk about some positives here, was actually the romantic relationship. In a weird way, yeah, the relationship that took place between Salma Hayek and Samuel L. Jackson in the film. I don't know why. There was just something. It was so Darius and Sonia are the two. And although their characters in of themselves weren't anything all that special, they were just very standard. There was just a realness, like a reality to the way that they, like, she really hated him, but she loved him at the same time.
Right.
But they both came from very obviously dark, backgrounds, and so it kind of made sense. I didn't like her character in and of itself. There just wasn't enough relatability to her character. There wasn't enough understandable reasons for why she was acting the way that she is. And she played this like waitress girl that met Samuel L. Jackson earlier in his career, and they fell in love with each other and got married. And she ends up being and I'm going to do some minor spoilers here, but it's not really spoiling anything. She ends up being the reason that he got caught by MI6. They used her to catch him. But she plays this kind of really dark-edged kind of, she's like almost a hitman herself, but she's just a waitress at this really seedy bar in this like back alley town sort of thing.
She killing people?
Yeah. So she kills a few people. There's like a flashback scene where it shows where they met each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't relatable. I don't know why. I mean, Salma Hayek's been in a couple action-y type scenes and films before. I just don't see her as like a really strong action.
Right.
Like she doesn't have an intensity to me that I look at her and I'm like, wow, she's intense. She's really scary. She's like really intimidating. She just looks like a nice. She's shorter and she's
Was she in the Mariachi trilogy? Which was she in all of them, or she was just in like Desperado?
I know she's in Desperado. I don't remember what the other one she was in, but that kind of made sense because she was kind of being pulled into that world. She was hardened, but she wasn't like a killer. Okay. And she kind of got pulled into that world by, Desperado and through the actions. I think the only other role, what was that Quentin Tarantino film? Crud, the one with the vampires.
Dust to Dawn.
Dust to Dawn.
Yeah.
It worked for me there because she wasn't playing. When she turns into the vampire, then it's like a completely different character. And so she was scary because she was a vampire that looked like Salma Hayek more than anything. So it worked there for me. But in this film, and I'm getting way sidetracked here talking about Salma Hayek. She's like, it's such a minor role, portion to this overall script.
But your favorite part of it.
Yeah. But my overall favorite part to it was the relationship that took place between the two because it felt relatable and understandable. I think the acting was good too. I really thought that nobody felt phoned in. Nobody felt like they were.
That's good.
And there was definitely, the potential there for some of this stuff to just be kind of stupid and silly. And I felt like all the actors did a good job with the character, although the characters are very simple and a little bit too one-dimensional, which I keep saying these days, but it's very much the case with this film. The other thing that I appreciated and I really liked was they made heavy use of practical effects.
Oh, cool.
So there was definitely, CG and fake scenes, but you could tell that almost every action scene, the majority of the action was taking place through practical effects, through a stuntman actually doing this crazy jump or, a car actually slamming into this other car and spinning it out and, running into this thing. So that felt really nice to see. The pacing of the action, though, was a bit bland. And again, the biggest critique I have for this film is that it really didn't feel like it was attempting anything new.
Okay.
It really felt like with everything, it was just trying to kind of check boxes off and say like, okay, well, now we have to have a big action scene that a bunch of guys get killed. And it got really tedious and boring because of that. I got so sick of every scene, some random bad guy would just pop up and then get shot. It was like, that happened every single time Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson are together. They would just be standing there and it's like, well, we need some action. So just some random bad guy would pop up and then one of them would cap him in the head from 30 feet away. And it's like, really? Like,
I love how you just said cap him in the head.
Yeah, well, it's just like, it just got ridiculous and boring and bland. The relationship, and that was the other thing that was kind of disappointing to me. And we talked about this again in the coming soon. I was really hoping for a better relationship, more of an antagonistic but fun, playful relationship between Ryan Reynolds' character Michael and Samuel Jackson's character Darius.
Okay.
Both of those guys are very much powerhouses in their own way. They both are very good with the one-liners.
Yeah.
They both can have, Ryan Reynolds is more of the sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek, one-liner type thing, whereas Samuel L. Jackson is more of the intense, angry, just calls it like it is kind of guy. And that really wasn't too much on play. I think Samuel L. Jackson was like, if you put Samuel L. Jackson on a scale of his like Samuel Jackson-ness on a scale of 1 to 10, he was about at like a 5 or a 6 here. And Ryan Reynolds was also at about like a 5 or 6 as far as their characterization goes.
This is the perfect time to interject the Samuel L. Jackson moment where he's giving a speech in Deep Blue Sea and he dies by shark.
Right. That's that or Pulp Fiction, with the gun scene in the hotel in the apartment. That's them at their most. That's him at his most Samuel L. Jackson-ness. He was at like a 5 in comparison to that.
Okay.
And so it was kind of bland. Because I was wanting that because the script was so formulaic and so stinking, just like I know exactly what's going to happen with everybody. I was really hoping for there to be a good chemistry between the two actors, but they came across much more as just like friends. They actually came across more as
just friends.
Yeah, like just friends, like they're buddies. Like they razz each other a little bit here and there. And they kind of hate some aspects to each other, but you can tell that they really like each other. And that's the weird thing about this. When I think about that, and I think also about the fact that I really thought the romance between Samuel Jackson and Salma Hayek was so good, it was almost like this director is more of like a romantic director in my mind because the use of the practical effects was good, but nothing about it stood out as being like, whoa, I'm never going to forget this crazy action scene. Like, we had a huge use of practical effects in Baby Driver.
Yeah.
And those are some of the most amazing, well choreographed type stunts and stuff that I've seen in a very long time.
Right. Yeah.
None of the action scenes were like that. There's a couple good action sequences. I think one of my favorite, which was also probably one of the more creative that I've seen done, was a fight that happens close to the end with Ryan Reynolds in a tool shop where he's grabbing all these different tools and using them to fight, and that was kind of creative and fun. And
That's
then
cool.
the final chase that takes place over in Europe somewhere, I can't think of the name of the Amsterdam,
Okay,
I believe
yeah.
it takes place in Amsterdam. That one was pretty cool as well.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, but it wasn't super funny either.
Oh, really?
Because of the lack
Okay.
of good back and forth between the two main characters. It wasn't super funny. And then Ryan Reynolds has this romantic relationship with Elodie Young in the film, that the girl Amelia, and sort of the setup for the entire thing is that Ryan Reynolds Michael had started this protection agency.
Okay.
And the very beginning, he's a super successful guy in the protection agency, and he's dating Amelia, and then he fails a job. One of the guys that he's protecting gets shot, and it's so obvious and predictable. Like the camera's framed just, okay, he's going to get shot in the head. And sure enough, he does.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like him trying to make it back up. That causes he believes that his girlfriend, Amelia, kind of betrayed him and turned on him and let the information slip. And so their relationship falls apart, and he's trying to work his way back up. So he's kind of like that begrudging, I'm going to be a protector. So he's trying
Right.
to work his way back up, become like the elite AAA. If they said that so many times.
Really?
He's trying to become this elite AAA protective agency again. And so he's trying to do that. And then through that realizes, though, that ultimately it's more about the relationship that he had with the girl.
It's more about the journey.
Yeah, it's more about the journey, the destination. From the very beginning, because they don't tell you who shot, the guy that he was trying to protect. From the very beginning that Samuel Jackson is going to have a huge part to do with that or the main bad guy. And then sure enough, that was like the one minor
Full circle
twist, but you see it coming a mile away. And it doesn't really have any repercussions. Like it has some very minor repercussions as far as like the temporary moment of like them having discord and going different ways. But it's just this kind of pointless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could have just punched each other a couple times, and it would have been more interesting if they had actually fought each other.
Right.
And maybe that was part of it. I think maybe there was too big a bit of an age discrepancy here.
Okay.
It wasn't that Samuel L. Jackson did a poor job with the action, but you can definitely tell he's getting older. He's kind of, I think, aged out of the action fighter kind of age.
Yeah.
I never necessarily saw him.
How old is he? Do you know how old he is?
I don't know. I would imagine at least in his 50s, but I don't know for sure. He's a great actor, so I'm not attacking him on that, and he's still got the same intensity. But when you put these two guys together and you act like Samuel Jackson is like this super awesome, amazing hitman type guy, but he's like in his 50s, it's kind of like, okay, think of your father being a hitman. But Ryan Reynolds is still physically, very dominating and very, very strong. So they just seemed, they seemed kind of like at different levels in regards to who they were. And they were in regards to their career and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just felt like there could have been some elements that played out in the way their relationship was structured that could have been a lot more interesting. I think that Samuel Jackson could have come across as more of a father figure for Ryan Reynolds, and that would have aided it and added it instead of putting them in equals. I think if there'd been more of like a fatherly type role that Samuel Jackson, even though it would have been hilarious because Samuel Jackson would be horrible in that film, a horrible father figure to have. And I think that could have been funny. I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about this. I've already talked about it for about 10, 15 minutes. Any thoughts?
Guess how old Sam Jackson is.
I was saying in 50s. I don't know.
You know how old he is?
How old is he?
He was born in 1948. He's
Seriously?
69 years old.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Well, yeah, it's crazy, but it makes sense. It came across on the screen. So, think of a 69-year-old playing this hitman that's like jumping across roofs and
Good for
getting
him,
these
dude.
car crashes.
He's still like...
No, he looks amazing. I would have never thought that he was that old.
And he's still in so many movies, too.
Yeah, but I just think that if I was fine with them being in the film, but if they had just tweaked the relationship to make it more realistic, then it would have just been, I don't know, more interesting.
Yeah.
It would have fit. Gotcha. It would have hit a better, spot. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stood out to me. Any questions?
No, I'm just curious what you want to rate this thing.
So I'm giving it a 71. C minus.
Okay.
Like I said, I did bash on the action a little bit. It's not exciting in a sense, but it's well structured.
Yeah.
Like nothing felt like it was poorly put together. It just is very predictable.
Yeah.
The acting was good. There was nothing that stood out as being ridiculously silly or tonally wasn't where it needed to be. It really just didn't have a tone. That was more the thing. It's like, give it more thematic something to leave a feeling with me. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm going to leave it.
I gotcha.
C minus. And so check the film out, I guess, for people that are maybe, I don't know. I can't even suggest this for like fans of Ryan Reynolds or fans of Samuel Jackson because it doesn't feel like they're really there fully in the film. So it's not like you can go and see them and be like, oh my gosh, this is the best film because it's them.
Right.
Because it really just feels like a shadow version of those.
Really? Okay.
Those and there's definitely still moments. I mean, they have their moments where they get closer to like their 10 level. But yeah. So
I gotcha.
There you go, Matt. So, all right, why don't we then get into our next film?
Yeah, for sure.
Matt, you're going to be talking about this one because I did not have a chance to see it, unfortunately.
Yes, and I was looking forward to this guy. We're talking about Logan Lucky. Did get a chance to see it, and the quick synopsis: two brothers attempt to pull off a heist during a NASCAR race in North Carolina. Written by Rebecca Blunt, directed by Steven Soderbergh, who brought us the Ocean's trilogy. Then also stars a number of people, and you have Channing Tatum, you have Adam Driver, Sebastian Stan, you have Family Guy. You have Farrah McKenzie. You have so many people. Katie Holmes.
You have Family Guy?
Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just call him Family Guy.
There you go.
And really, this is an interesting thing. This is Steven Soderbergh's like return to cinema after he said he quit like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, he quit film. Like he did the show called The Nick for a while too. He's working on some other stuff, but like he's quit like making movies for a bit.
Yeah.
And I was really, really pumped for this movie, and just kind of overall thing. I liked it. Just like I thought it was okay, like I liked it. There was some enjoyment to be had, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping it to be. It wasn't as good as I was hoping to be. It wasn't as funny as I think it was going to be. It did have a little bit more emotional depth to it than I thought I was going to have, and I did enjoy that. It's probably, I guess, if we're starting with goods, I really enjoyed that part. There's this like dynamic between Channing Tatum and his daughter, which I felt like he wanted to make it deeper of a story, which it wasn't quite there to being like really emotionally satisfying. But there was a lot there, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. The movie as a whole, it's hard to explain how I felt like I was grinning throughout the whole length of the movie. Like it's just to sit there and watch Kylo Ren, Channing Tatum, who's Magic Mike, and James Bond, Daniel Craig,
right,
with these just outrageous like Southern accents,
acting like idiots,
and acting like total idiots. Just that in itself was funny.
Okay,
just watching them talk and just how they're like real slow to things and how they say things.
That's more of a casting thing than an actual script strength, though.
Right, exactly. And so that's why I think it like that. I enjoyed. I was smiling just watching them talk to each other.
Yeah.
I was like, this is kind of amusing to watch them talk to each other like this.
Yeah.
It wasn't as funny as I was hoping it to be. There was a couple times where I laughed out loud, and that was really it. There was. I won't get too much into spoilers, but it was very meta in itself, where Steven Soderbergh like references some of his other movies. He even refers, like he even gives this nod to how this is like, he even says this is like a hillbilly heist,
Yeah.
And there's an instance where people reference this heist as like Ocean's 7-Eleven, like kind of funny things like that.
Oh, big gulp, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. There's one of the best scenes. It's kind of a funny scene. I won't go into details just for spoiler, but it's like a lengthy 2-minute conversation of people arguing about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty good in itself. it did a lot of what Ocean's 11 did, where you're introing all these characters, the team. There's stylistic choices that Steven Soderbergh. I didn't feel like it was as stylistic as like the Ocean's movies were, but I felt like it didn't call for it to be that stylistic because that's like Vegas. Everything's moving fast, all the different moving parts. You got to have the guy that's breaking it down. There's no guy breaking it down because they're hillbillies,
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you know how at the end of each Ocean's movie, they have some guy breaking down all the stuff that happened behind the scenes that you didn't see the first time around?
Right, they do kind of like
a twist?
Yeah, that twist where they go back and they show you the things that you didn't
So they
see.
kind of do that, but it wasn't as effective as any of the Ocean's movies. Like, I was like, okay, I kind of get it.
Yeah. Well, because the joke of the hillbilly thing is that these guys are inept.
Right.
So why I wouldn't necessarily, well, maybe. It depends upon how he does it. I could be interested in seeing how they actually accomplished it if they somehow did and they came across as completely inept. But
right, well, there's a twist on that.
Okay,
there's a twist on how they accomplished it, but they didn't they ended up kind of. I can't say without spoiling, but
that's fine.
They I don't know. It was good. I will say this: Channing Tatum started off with. Step Up, right? That was like one of his first ones.
That was like the first major one I remember seeing him in.
Right. So
which was kind of
dancing, because he was a
hit.
dancer and all that stuff, and like that was kind of his thing.
Right.
His acting skills weren't that strong. And then he's doing like some actiony stuff. He did like a couple of Nicholas Sparks things.
Right.
He did The Vow.
Yep.
And Dear John. And then he kind of got into action.
Jump Street.
Yeah, got into actiony. So he did like G.I. Joe. He did something else, and then he got into Jump Street.
Yeah.
Series. So he started his comedy thing. This while it was comedy, gave him, and I really like this about him, gave him some dramatic things to do, even though he was playing kind of a Southern guy with his daughter in this movie. So I think he's got a lot of potential to do some really, really good things dramatically as far as an acting perspective is concerned.
I'm fine with seeing it. I mean, he's been definitely reaching.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw Hateful Eight. That was a different kind of, there was a lot of subtlety to his character. Yeah, he played one of the. It wasn't.
Oh yeah. Okay,
it wasn't a huge part of the film,
yeah.
but he was in it. He had played a pretty subtle character, and I thought he did an effective job with it. I didn't think it was great in that film. Mm-hmm. There's still a Channing Tatumness to him that sometimes overpowers there's like a broness to him at times that I think does overpower. It's not
seen in this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to try and check it out then because I would be interested to see that. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, yeah, that's the best example I could give.
Yeah. No, and that's totally fine.
He also did Hail Caesar, right?
I did not like Hail Caesar.
But he was good in that.
Yeah, my favorite
I didn't
was
like it either, but he did a great dance.
Alden Ehrenreich was the standout for me in that movie. But as far as...
What's that wrestling one he did? Crud. The one where about the Olympic wrestler and
with Steve Carell.
Yes, he was great in that. He was actually really, really, really good in that. I can't remember what it's called right now, but
I don't remember either.
I'm
Steve Carell, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah. So, anyways, let me dive into the some of the negatives as far as what I thought. Again, a lot of like we were talking about the strengths of the film and what I guess I should say what I liked about the film weren't in the script part of it. It was more about what I enjoyed about the characters just kind of riffing with each other in these like crazy accents and basically being
Foxcatcher.
Hillbillies. Yeah, Foxcatcher, that's right. And so that also in turn plays into the weakness of the script because a lot of times I was just kind of grinning and I went with a friend and a lot of people were laughing and at times I was like, why are people laughing at that? I don't get why people are laughing at that right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not getting it and I don't know. And I felt like people thought it was funnier because...
Yeah. Would you say that you have a distinct humor style?
Probably.
That's
the thing too, is I feel like humor is really hard to be universal a lot of times because you have a lot of humor like this. Then you have like slapstick humor. Then you have child, bathroom joke humor. Then you have like crude humor that you see in a lot of like Judd Apatow movies and stuff like that. And,
See, I've never been a huge fan of the Judd Apatow humor,
right?
Because it's more of a improv style back and forth. And there was kind of a season where I liked it, but for me, when I see those types of movies now, I'm like,
yeah.
So maybe this is more of your type humor.
Well, no, I don't know. I liked, like I said, I was grinning, but I like kind of where they're going. I just didn't have a lot of those bust out loud. I thought I was going to have more of those. And I think the problem with this movie is not the movie itself. And I think it was just a hype.
Yeah.
I think I got way caught up in the hype, and I tend to do that as the emotional one.
You do.
If people are,
you put this at a 9 excitement.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
soon.
I did.
Yeah.
And so the hype was super real, and I totally got caught up in that whirlwind. I remember I felt the hype with The Mummy too, and I totally got burned on that one. But
everybody got burned on
I
The
know.
Mummy.
So I totally got caught up in my own hype. I got caught up in everybody else's hype.
Yeah.
And I didn't go in there, I think, as objective as I needed to.
It's all right. I forgive
so
you.
I feel
I know
like,
this about you, and I accept it.
right. So I feel like a part of this is my fault.
Yeah.
Part of my letdown is my fault. I thought it was a good movie. I just didn't think it was great. I can't even think of a lot of bad parts. I just wish they would have maybe hit a little bit more emotionally, since they were trying to combine this like comedy, the emotional side of it. I didn't feel like the wrap up at the end where they're summarizing what really what happened behind the scenes. I didn't feel like that was as very effective.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think it was as funny as I was hoping it to be. Everybody listening, you may have loved it. I got caught up in my own whirlwind of hype.
Yeah, I mean, when you check out for this film the Rotten Tomatoes, most of the critics that watched it are liking it. You know,
yeah,
93%,
exactly.
which that just says that they like it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's a good film.
Right, it's an average
overall.
of
It's an average of who thinks it's good or bad.
Right.
But the average rating for this is about a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
It's like 78 for viewers. So I think what you're saying is pretty normal.
Right. My rating for this, I would actually give an 82.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that's a good score, and I
good
think
compared to a lot of films we've seen this summer.
Right. Exactly. So, I just. Darn it! I get caught up in my emotions, and I can't contain the hype sometimes. I got to go into every movie and be like, "This is going to be awful."
You know who I actually do kind of wish had taken this film on is the Coen brothers.
Oh yeah,
because I feel like there would have been that maybe a little extra something that you were maybe wanting from this.
Maybe
they're good with these types of films with the like the whole assemblage of random people from a bunch of different types of genres, strong characterization, good humor and quirky situations. I feel like they could have probably knocked this one out of the park.
Could have cleansed the palate from Hail Caesar too, because I was really disappointed by that movie.
Yeah, I was too. So,
but okay,
just a thought.
Cool.
Maybe they'll do a sequel, Logan Lucky or.
I don't know. Maybe Steven Soderbergh could do what he wants. Apparently, he did a lot of the funding for this film by himself.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I was kidding too, by the way. The Coen brothers don't do sequels.
Right.
They're not a sequel group. But that's interesting. Well, I'm glad. I think he's got a distinct enough voice that I'm interested to see him making a couple more films and kind of see what he does next. And from what you're saying, I'll probably try and check it out when it comes out on, some sort of streaming service and give my thoughts.
It's worth checking out. I think it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, then we are going to go ahead and wrap things up on the review portion of the podcast.
Yep.
Sound good, Matt?
Wrap it up with a bow.
There it is. Tied. See
Bam.
you. There you go.
Joe Bam.
So we're going to move into our Tube Talk, where we're going to be talking about the brand new episode of Game of Thrones that just came out, and then we're going to be talking about The Defenders.
Defenders.
So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. This is our Tube Talk segment. And as I mentioned just before the break, we're going to be talking about 2 shows on the podcast. We're going to be talking about Game of Thrones, the newest episode.
Penultimate episode.
Penultimate, which is very sad. It's getting crazy and awesome. And we're also going to be talking about The Defenders. Or I should say Marvel's
Defenders. Marvel's The Defenders.
Right, which I had a chance to watch most of. I'm through 5 episodes out of 8, correct?
I finished it.
And you finished it.
Yep.
So, I don't know. We'll do what we can to not spoil. Maybe.
No, we're going to spoil it.
Well, I mean, the last couple episodes for me.
Okay, well, hey, time management.
I want to know what happens. I don't want you to spoil it. All right. But first of all, let's get started with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, let's do it.
This was a crazy episode.
Oh, it's really crazy.
Which Game of Thrones is kind of known for. Their second to last episodes are usually amongst the more crazy in television history.
That's when Battle of the Bastards started.
Battle of the Bastards, Red Wedding.
Right.
I mean, you've got the battle between... I can't think of all the different stuff. But
was a Battle of Black...
Ned Stark's death. I mean, you've got...
No, that was the finale, wasn't it?
I believe that was the...
that was the penultimate.
The penultimate.
Right.
Yeah, they've just kind of always been like shockers. And so I think out of all the shockers of shockers in this episode was definitely the dragon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we don't want to start with the biggest thing, but
that was like John Wick's puppy all over again.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, so it was like a 2-part shocker because I kind of assumed that one of the dragons would probably die at some point. There just were too many good things about the dragons for them to kind of be unscathed or unhurt. And I even said that to a couple people because there's a bazillion different fan theories out there right now of like, oh, well, Tyrion's going to ride a dragon and Jon's going to ride a dragon. And I was like, no, let's just see how many dragons survive this season and then we'll see who gets to end up riding a dragon.
Technically, a lot of people got to ride this dragon at the end.
Right, but they mean like the
solo.
Like the solo rider, yeah. And I was like, I believe Jon Snow's going to get one, but as far as the third one, I was actually questioning whether or not 3 were going to survive the season.
Right.
And so we did have an amazing, crazy scene with one of the leaders of the White Walker, like the captain.
The Night King.
The Night King does like the most epic Olympic-style javelin toss and pretty much blows up the whole side of the dragon.
Right, that was so crazy.
Which was so insane. Yeah. I mean, it kind of in a way makes you wonder though, like why he just didn't do that earlier with a couple of the other. Like why didn't he just do that with Jon Snow and throw a javelin at
They must have like
island,
known.
you know.
They must have been like, we got to save these for the dragons.
I'm assuming. I mean, there's things that can obviously break down. Like my whole thing was, why didn't they just take the dragons up there to begin with?
Right.
You know, because they could have literally just flown the dragon up there. One of them could have been on the back, hopped off, grabbed one of the walkers, thrown them on, like a couple of them, thrown them on the back of the dragon like they did, flown off. Like that was my idea earlier, and she ends up flying up there anyway. But obviously they need suspense and crazy things happening. And so I will say this: beyond the dragon. There wasn't any like too much crazy death. We had the death of what's his face?
The top knot guy.
Yeah, so he died, which wasn't super shocking and surprising.
Well, he died by the crazy White Walker polar bear, which was freaky.
Those were amazing though. Yeah. I mean, what did you think of the okay, by the way, so the end of the twist with the dragon is that they kill him, but then they bring him back.
Yeah, they drag him out of the lake, and then the White Walker Night King is like, you will be my ice dragon, or whatever. He doesn't say that, but he like touches it and brings it back to life, ice dragon style.
So he's like a cold ice dragon now.
Which there's so many different things that could happen. Is he going to breathe like ice? Is he going to
I'm assuming so.
That would be crazy.
I mean, that's kind of what I would think, or maybe it'll be blue flame.
I don't know.
I don't know
I don't
either.
Know. Like, what are the rules
it
here?
It sets them up as their, what are the rules when you bring a dragon back to life? I feel like they will kind of be at odds now, very much. I mean, we'll see. So, but what thoughts, ideas, concepts from the episode? Anything?
No, I liked it. Here, and it's funny. I'm actually saying I liked the episode. This is this is the first full episode I've seen of this show.
Yeah.
Everything else I've just read synopsis and like read backstories and all the episodes.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't have enough time to catch up. But this one I actually watched it.
Yeah.
And man, I'm really glad I did. Apparently one thing that a lot of people are griping about is how Game of Thrones has sped up its like time. Yeah. I didn't mind any of it. No. I felt like I got enough. Like
those are some of the least interesting moments of the film when they're just on a boat talking to each other.
Right, exactly. So I didn't mind it. So in this one, they're trapped on that like the ice center thing where a bunch of White Walkers and whites, is that what they call them?
Whites.
They fell into the ice lake or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they were basically there, and I got the passage of time. They were there overnight, and we don't know how long the passage of time took at the beginning where they're like walking and talking to each other.
Yeah.
Which I really loved. Tormund, by the way, during that, he had some like, he was funny. He was funny during that part. And he was also kind of unintentionally wise, as I call it. He's actually, I feel like the one who inspired Jon to quote unquote, metaphorically, figuratively bend the knee to Daenerys.
Yeah.
And
Tormund is one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's great.
I was actually really concerned about him dying.
Me too.
But also a big part of the concern was I really want to see him and Bree to get together. Brienne, not Bree. Brienne.
One of the best lines is he's like, I'm gonna make giant babies with her.
Yeah. and it's just so great because the Hound is like, you can tell he just really doesn't like her after their battle, and he's just like, you're a crazy man. And he's like, yeah, I never said I'm not. I'm
going to make giant babies with her.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
I mean that whole relationship, which has happened sort of organically per the producers and saying how that happened.
He talks as if she's like there waiting for him to get back when they really have like she kind of doesn't like him.
I don't think she understands what's going on because I don't think she's ever had a guy like that interested in her in that way. So I don't know. I just think that's beautiful, and I was really sad. I was like, I don't want him to die yet. I want them to get together. So when he was in peril, I was pretty upset.
Yeah, I was.
Pretty much everybody else except the big ones that I obviously don't want to die are John, Tormund, and then the Hound at this point, because I feel like all three of them kind of have something left that they can do and have accomplished. But pretty much everybody else to me at that point was kind of expendable. I mean. Not that I'm like, yay, they died, but it's like, kind of like.
How do you? I feel like we might have a twist coming up here with the Arya Sansa stuff. Like, I feel like it's not everything that we're seeing. I feel like there's something else happening.
Yeah.
Like that Arya is downplaying something or pretending to do something, or Sansa's pretending to do something. Because I'm big on like people that I feel like should be on the same team.
Yeah.
When they're against each other, like Arya and Sansa are seeming like they are right now.
Yeah.
It bothers me, but I kind of feel like there's some twist that's going to happen from this.
Well, I've kind of constantly thought that Littlefinger's probably not going to survive.
Right.
I really feel like he's going to get it at some point, and I think Arya could be. Here's the thing: they've mishandled Arya's story arcs in the past. I think they've had her make stupid decisions about different things, especially when she was getting the training and everything. I'm concerned that they're just kind of having stuff happen between Sansa and Arya right now because they want to keep them both relevant to the story, and they're stretching it out, and so they're making things just kind of appear where there really shouldn't be. Right. That's the pessimistic side of me.
I think
the optimistic side of me in regards to their story is that maybe Arya is aware that Littlefinger is using this as a means to sort of manipulate her. She's grown. She's become a stronger person. And so she's kind of playing into it on purpose to accomplish something.
Yeah.
To have something take place so that way she can eventually maybe kill Littlefinger.
I think she's going to be the one to kill Littlefinger, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, at this point, that's kind of what it's seeming like. Her list has kind of gotten on the back burner of people to kill.
He's manipulated one too many people.
Right. I think he's going to die. My assumption was that maybe it would be Littlefinger. It could also be Sansa. I mean, she hasn't directly killed anybody up to this point. Yeah. So I could also see her being, in a way that would be pretty epic for Sansa to kill Littlefinger, because I don't think a lot of people would see that coming.
Well, yeah, and she was mad at him for basically leaving her with Ramsay.
Right. He set all that up, and it's not his fault, but he definitely played a big hand in Ned dying. So, I don't know. He's not a good guy. He's going to die. I'm just wondering how it's going to happen.
Well, I think it's going to be Arya because it's the blade that Littlefinger gave Bran.
Right, but Arya gave the blade back to Sansa in the most recent episode.
Well, I know, but I thought that was just kind of like a gesture. I didn't know that was like.
I think she's got it now.
Giving it to her.
Right, I think she's got it now, and my feeling is like maybe she's going to make use of it to do something.
Okay, I got you.
But I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of potential there for a lot of things to happen with that story. Again, my hope is, my optimistic view is that they're doing something with that, and they're not just trying to create drama for drama's sake.
Right.
To just keep those characters relevant to the story. I did really like the back and forth with Sansa and Arya, because it's kind of like they've fixed some things, but you're seeing that it's not like everything's just repaired and gotten completely just everything's okay. They're just great now. They're sisters. It's like, no, they both have issues from the past connected to their relationship, but also individual problems that arose. And I felt bad for Sansa, obviously, who's opening up about some of the stuff so horrible things that happened to her, but she doesn't even know anything that Arya's been through. Arya's been stabbed.
Yeah. I feel
multiple times.
I feel like Arya, if everything is as they're portraying it on this last episode, I feel like she's not giving Sansa the benefit of her doubt. And I feel like she should be able to tell if she's telling the truth.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, like, maybe Arya is aware and she's doing this on purpose.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm hoping.
That's what I was saying. I think it's there's more than what meets the eye in this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping. That's what I'm wishing for. My favorite part between them was actually before she blamed Sansa, when she's talking about how she would like pick up the bow that Bran left or whatever, and was like practicing, and then Ned was clapping for her and stuff like that. I really thought that was nice. I was like, oh, I miss Ned.
So I agree. Yeah, he was a great character. One of the things I didn't like about this episode, I wasn't a big fan of the interactions that Tyrion had with Daenerys. I really felt like it was in very poor taste for him and very stupid of him to approach her talking about who's going to take over after she passes. That didn't really make a lot of sense to me, because that hasn't been an issue that's been brought up anywhere else in the show. The biggest issue they've had, which he started that conversation with, and I was like, oh, I get where you're going, was the idea of her anger leading her down really dangerous paths.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like totally on board with that. But then
Right.
when he turned it into, well, who's going to be your heir? I was like, where's this being motivated from? Where's this coming from?
My thought was with that, and I agree. He can think the long game or whatever. The ultimate. He's planning.
Yeah, the
whatever.
whole wheel metaphor kind of broke down. I was like, what?
My thought behind that was just like you're doing these potentially reckless things that your temper can get the best of you sometimes.
Yeah.
You could potentially die. Who's going to take over?
Right.
So that was my thought on it.
But he really went. There's no reason to discuss heirs.
Right.
I mean,
No,
maybe
there's not,
maybe the point of it was to set up something between Dany and Jon, because that was obviously there's something there. I mean,
Right.
people have been like, well, they're related, but it's like Targaryens,
Yeah.
There was definitely something in that moment of longingly looking at each other and the hand holding and the
Right.
way that she kind of like paused, like, should I go or should I kiss you? Like, there was definitely something happening there.
She's like, wait, I'm getting some like family vibes. Are we related?
Yeah,
Kind of like-
I mean, they're playing that one a little slow, which I'm fine with. Both of them come from some pretty troubled pasts, and
Right.
her in particular in regards to her, loves and being, sold
Yeah.
into a marriage and everything. She's got a lot of hurt there and a lot of baggage. And I think it's been nice to kind of see that in this episode, she opened up about them.
Yeah.
John had to, like, in a way, not just bend the knee, but also make a sacrifice,
Right.
show that he was willing to, like, give of himself for her to see him as a potential person,
Right.
beyond just like the physical attraction. You're really seeing just a relationship form between the two of them.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad. It wasn't just like they saw each other, they thought they were hot and hooked up. And that's kind of how it's been in the past with Dany, with a lot of the other
Yeah,
suitors.
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm liking that. But again, I didn't really like Tyrion in this episode. I felt like he was completely just like, where are you coming
Sure.
from, bro? I don't get it. So let's talk about it as well. Was there anything in the actual episode you want to talk about?
No, that's it for the episode. I would give it a 9.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk about like kind of what's to come a little bit.
Right. I give
Yeah.
it about a 9 as well. I think
Okay.
9.2. Yeah. So there's talks. This is kind of a rumor that's going around right now that the next season might actually not premiere now until 2019, because they haven't released an official premiere date
Right.
for it.
So typically, as far as what I know, is that Game of Thrones has always aired in like April.
Right.
This year was different.
Right. They
Which is
started later.
interesting. They started later, and so it was started in July.
Yep.
And what they're talking about now, I know that right now they're going into pre-production for season 8, or season 7B, whatever you want to call it. But season 8, and it's only 6 episodes instead of the current season that we're in is 7.
Right.
And
I'm thinking what they're going to do is they're going to divide this coming season into 6 more seasons.
No,
It's one
they're
episode
not.
per season.
So
we
what
need
they're-
the production time.
I
It's
think-
not money at all.
I think what they're going to do, I do like that they're shorter in the sense of where I feel like they can use more of their money effectively.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think this show is going to start closer to the fall of 2018.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going to go for, and they're just going to wrap it up at the end of the year. I don't.
It's a weird time to release the show.
Right.
I mean, it's like a premiere cable program.
Yeah.
Or it's not program channel.
Yeah.
Not everybody has HBO, but it's one of the most watched shows in history. So it's becoming, I think, more and more slowly, it's moving more and more towards a streaming service as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because everybody wants HBO Go.
I know.
So it's hard to say when they might target a premiere, because I feel like they might target it doing it at a time when they know they're going to get the best viewership. But everybody and their brother, nobody's
Right.
going to get off board. You know, like their viewer numbers have not shrunken since this season started, and it's going to be one of the most epic, probably, conclusions to any show.
Yeah, for sure.
In the history of television, at least in our lifetimes.
I feel like it's
you know?
ramping up. There's this game. It's just it seems like this season is ramping up to just more. I mean, because we're getting a lot of dragons, and anytime you have dragons in the scope of armies and all these things coming together, it's just really just crazy, like epic feel, and they're doing a really good job of harnessing that. And I feel like it could only really go up from here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to get introduced to a bunch of new characters. It's in fact, the
No,
season has been
we're gonna be losing-
whittling people down. We've
Yeah.
lost, all the Tyrells.
Now it's a matter of who's going to live to the end.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's just Dorne is falling. I mean, like people are, kingdoms are falling.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of honing in. I like that about that. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. The teaser for the next week's episode looks crazy tense.
Yeah.
Looks like Jon and Cersei are going to be chatting.
Right.
So
I really think what my opinion on it is where they're going is there's going to be, because I was wondering how they were going to handle the two big battles that are kind of been brewing since the beginning of the show, which is the battle for the throne and then the battle with the White Walkers. I really think what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a hybrid. I think Cersei and Dany are probably going to end up working together. I could be wrong, but to battle the White Walkers, and then
Cersei's going behind back.
Cersei's going to go behind her back
during
that to try and, like, the moment it looks like they're going to win, kill off Dany.
I'm going to make this call right now officially. I told you about this earlier, but I really think it's going to be sweet because George R.R. Martin's theory about Targaryens not being fireproof is...
I don't know about this. This seems a stretch.
It might be a stretch, but guess what? He only said it after the first time Daenerys survived fire. He didn't say it after the second time because he said it's probably not going to happen again. This is where the show started taking liberties.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is Cersei's going to be her like manipulative, like terrible self.
Yeah.
And she's going to, help defeat the White Walkers and then simultaneously try and take out a bunch of people with dragon fire because that seems to be like her MO now. She's like, dragon fire.
Right.
And so she's going to do that. And then Jon Snow's going to be in the middle of it. And then she's like, I killed him. And then he comes walking out. I'm Targaryen. He's like, I'm fireproof. And then kills her or something like that. Not this next episode, but I think that'll happen in the next season.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I will bet zero money on it, but I'll bet something, maybe a LaCroix.
There you go.
Yes.
Bet a LaCroix.
I will not drink a LaCroix you give me if I'm wrong.
Oh dear. That's a pretty high, you're putting a lot out there. High stakes, yeah. I think, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. There's so many theories out there.
I'm taking it like kind of one step at a time. I really think that's going to be, obviously that's a couple steps removed, but I really think that's going to be the direction they take it in my opinion. But we'll see. Obviously, we didn't have anything with Sam this episode, but he's close to, it looks like with what he's researching, everything close to figuring out maybe a way that Jon is a Targaryen. So that could be a thing.
We'll see, yeah.
And then additionally, I think the big thing he's going to figure out potentially in the end of this episode coming up is how to finally defeat the White Walkers for good, how to officially do it. Which the point was, like, why don't you just destroy them? The king,
Night King,
the Night King, and that would resolve everything, which is true.
Right, all the followers would die, and then we saw that in that episode.
So maybe that's what they need to do, but maybe that doesn't defeat him for good. I don't know. So cool. So we're gonna go ahead and move on then to our talk about Marvel's The Defenders.
The Defenders.
And so Matt.
Yeah.
Do you have this up? Do you want to give a synopsis?
Yeah, totally.
Real quick. It's not like you need
Guys,
to.
guess what? Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist team up to fight crime in New York City.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes.
This is the culmination of the small screen MCU.
Yep.
It takes place in the theatrical MCU because they reference the event or the whatever they call it. They call it something in the small screen. They call the alien invasion something.
Oh.
It's like the incident. They call it the incident. That's what it is.
Yes, the incident.
So so you got all these shows that have been leading up over the last, 3 or 4 years since Daredevil season 1 came out. And it I actually enjoyed it. I liked it. I was hesitant going into it because I liked Luke Cage. I felt like it faltered towards the end, and I thought Iron Fist started off okay and then just got worse. But I really like this, and a lot of the strengths come from one, my favorites are Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and Jessica Jones. And overall, I thought it was really good. And I told you this earlier. If I had to rank all the series as a whole, I would go Daredevil 1, Daredevil 2, and then I'd put The Defenders third. And then Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and then Iron Fist being my last favorite one. Mm-hmm. But one thing I really, really liked about this was just seeing everybody together. Yep. There's something about it that was really satisfying. Mm-hmm. Episode 3 is my favorite of the whole first season. Not to say the other ones were bad, but I thought it was my favorite. It's where they first, do that team up. And it's not one thing that they do on like Netflix shows, especially when they release all of the episodes at once, is they tend to show a lot of the series and some of the cooler stuff you don't see until like the end of the season.
Yeah.
This one, you have that like hallway fight that you see in the trailer. You see them all like in the elevator together with Daredevil with that Jessica Jones scarf on his face.
Right.
And like, I'm like, that'll probably happen towards the end of the season. That happens in episode 3.
Right.
I was like, awesome. It was a really, really cool thing.
Yeah.
After I saw that, I was like, this is great. Okay. It took a minute to get there, but I really liked it. Iron Fist is still kind of his whiny, childish self. Not as bad though. Actually, I found him kind of when I first started watching Iron Fist, I found him endearing in a couple of ways because of his childlikeness. Yeah. He did have that again, but towards the end, he did kind of get a little whiny. One of my favorite parts,
well, it's because they want to capture him and they keep trying to get him, Matt.
Exactly. So Colleen, she's in the show. She makes this remark towards the end of the season. He says, "Oh, Danny's basically just a kid still trying to find his parents." Yeah. Like, and that sort of thing. I'm like, thank you. And he goes, and Claire is talking to Colleen, and Claire's like, but you know, he's the immortal Iron Fist. And Colleen kind of jokingly, but like truthfully says, yeah, believe it. And he will tell it like an annoying way. Yeah. He'll tell it to everybody that wants to know.
Well, it's funny because like whenever he tells people, he always goes, well, you know, I'm the immortal.
Like everybody should know it.
Yeah, well, and he gets real like somber and like I'm
serious. Like and
then he's like, and I had to pass a really hard test.
He's extremely idealistic though. So like he'll take this like, this is my purpose, this is my calling, this is what I'm supposed to do, and like he's like, this is the only truth I know. So he says it, you know. Yeah. And I get his character like that, and it's just sometimes where I'm like, stop it.
Yeah,
just calm
I
down.
kind of wish they played off that a bit more. I think in the show that he could be the annoying kind of side character in a way. Yeah. That's the rich boy that allows everything to take place. Yeah. You know, like he provides what they need, but he's kind of around. Yeah. Because he's, as far as the superpowers go, to me, between all three of them, Daredevil doesn't really have superpowers per se. He's just has heightened perception and
they're kind
really
of like
fighting.
Abnormally heightened.
Right, but he's just kind of like, no, absolutely, like abnormally heightened, but like his power is the weakest in a way. You could just literally shoot the guy and he would die.
As Iron Fist says, blind ninja.
Yeah, Daredevil's like, he's just got the perception. So like if somebody's going to shoot him, he's going to hear the person cocking their gun. Whereas Danny, you could literally just walk up to him and shoot him in the head and he'd die. Yeah. Luke Cage has got a lot of strength and is bulletproof. Jessica Jones is super strength and stuff, and she's got an attitude, which is kind of her thing. But I think just out of all the characters, he's like the least interesting to me in a way. Yeah. I do like that in this series so far, because I've only seen the first 5 episodes. He's definitely used his power a lot more and been a lot more effective as a fighter.
I put that on our site. I said, guys, good news. Something like you get more Iron Fist using his Iron Fist in the first 3 episodes of The Defenders than the whole first season of Iron Fist.
That's kind of my point, is like the other characters are like always using their power. Yeah. They're in a constant state of using their power, whereas with him it's like he's just doing kung fu, and then eventually he'll like build up the chutzpah to like use his chi, and he comes up with these excuses like, well, it's really draining and it's really hard,
so he's got to eat a lot of food and stuff.
Right. And it's just like, I get it, but it's a bit lame. It's like you're basically just a kung fu fighter that every once in a while gets a really strong fist. And I'm sorry, but it's like if I saw a person with a glowing fist, I would not get close to them. I would throw something or run away. I'm not gonna like assume that this guy with the glowing fist is going to do good things with that glowing fist.
Right. So what the Defenders did right in this one, I think, is they made it to where I don't feel like you really have to see the Iron Fist show to go. The whole backstory, a lot of this is based around the Kunlun legend and the Iron Fist. Right. And so you get a lot of that again.
Agreed. And as somebody that has only seen parts of every single show, I haven't completed any of the shows. Okay. That was a concern for me. And not only that, but they were going to spoil different elements. And there's definitely been some spoilers, but I don't feel lost. Right. I don't feel like maybe for a moment, but then I'm like, oh, okay, they've got that, because they'll always talk about it in a very natural way. Right. And I think it just makes sense. I think one of the things that I've also really liked about the show, I put it similarly, just as far as what I have seen to where you ranked it. One, the action is much better than especially Iron Fist. Yeah. It feels like they spent some time doing the choreography, figuring out how the fights were going to go. The camera's a little too shaky at times for me.
They did that when it was dark, I felt like a lot. Like
there's definitely times where it's like I just want to see them fighting, and it goes to more of like the jump cuts and the shaky cam, and that's a little bit too much for me. So I wish they would have kind of toned that down a little bit. But I have liked the choreo a lot better, and I think it's been a lot more, just in comparison to the parts that I've seen of the shows, violent and gruesome. I mean, you've got a scene with a bear getting his guts pulled out. You've got a guy chopping off his hand, a girl taking a bath in blood.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy gets his head chopped off. I mean, there's definitely a lot more visceral violence and gore, which in a way works. In a way is at times a little bit like cheesy and fake to me because it's like the show is more tongue-in-cheek. It's not a super deep, dark show. So when they get super violent with it, I'm a little bit like...
Right. I think one of my biggest problems with this is in episode 7, it slows way down, like right before the last episode. And it's unnecessarily right
because I just finished 5 and they just had amped everything up with the big battle in the restaurant, and so I was like, oh nice, they're getting into the big chunk of everything now.
Actually, I really like the first 5 is a little slower at times, or 4. One of the ones where they're in the restaurant just talking a lot. I thought I was kind of slow, but I liked all of the episodes. Episode 7 was just like the one that was kind of a struggle to get through. Yeah. A bear to get through, pun intended. But my favorite part about this show, about this one is Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones in this was, I feel like, the best. Yeah. She said she's so sarcastic, so cynical, and she's such an alcoholic. It just plays through like on all of her like little witty dialogue and like one-liners she pulls up, and she's just picking on people and it's really, really funny. She doesn't want to be there for most of the time. Right. She's like, I don't want to be a part of this thing, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And, I just really, really enjoyed her and her I was just laughing. I agree. With her. It's
I think out of all of them, her, Jessica Jones, played by Kristen Ritter, and Charlie Cox, Daredevil. Yeah. I felt like they're the most relatable and interesting as far as the actual superheroes go. Yeah. Everybody else was good in a way, but I think one of the main problems I've had with the Hand, from what I've seen of him in the show, is that they're just such an ethereal antagonist that they're just like this bad organization that exists to be bad and try and accomplish bad things. So I'm liking that they're fleshing out a little bit of the Hand story and kind of you're finding out why they're doing some of the bad things that they're doing, but at the same time they haven't really come across as like a visceral threat. Right. And I still feel like they're a little bit just like, well, okay. Sigourney Weaver, as great as an actress as she is, and she does a great job acting in this, her character is just a little bland to me in this film, a little flat personally.
Yeah. I thought she was really good.
But I feel that's kind of the same with all of the Hand people. Sure. I don't really feel like there's one standout character. Elektra has a little bit more depth. She's the Black Sky girl now. Yeah. She's got a little bit more depth because of her history and her past. Yeah. I think that's interesting. Yeah. But I don't know. I need a bit more connection. You either need to be super evil for just being evil's sake, or I need to get a bit more connection to them.
So, and that's another thing to say. I felt like a typical Marvel season for any other show is like 13 episodes long. I feel like it's too long for Marvel. I think 10 is the sweet spot. I almost felt like 8 episodes was good in some respect, but in others it could have benefited from another episode or 2. Gotcha. And the other thing that bothered me was the auxiliary or the secondary characters, mainly Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. Oh, so frustrating. I liked them in the Daredevil, but this was just them there, like feeling like they had to intervene for
it was like he had a
intervention for like an addiction or something.
And that's that because I haven't seen season 2 of Daredevil, so I was assuming
they were okay. Actually, Foggy gets burned by Matt pretty bad in the second season of Daredevil, and he leaves like.
Right, I'm assuming it's because of Elektra and everything.
Right, so it was Nelson and Murdoch, and then Nelson leaves because Matt's pushing him away because of the whole Elektra thing. And, and I get that, but he was just unnecessarily like, they don't understand that he's like saving the city. They're like, you need to stop.
Well, on that I agree. Because I hadn't seen season 2, so I didn't want to make any judgment on it. But it really feels like it's more like this guy that has an alcohol problem, and they're trying to prevent him from getting back into drinking alcohol.
This is not an alcohol problem. This is him saving lives problem.
Right. I was thinking that maybe because of the events in the last season that like he had gone overboard and started like killing people and all these crazy things. No. Well, then it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, he burned them by like kind of basically burning their friendship. Yeah. But He didn't do anything crazy like that. And I got annoyed with Matt Murdock in Daredevil season 2.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was a lot better in this.
Yeah.
And he got to a point where he embraces, hey, I'm the Daredevil guy. It's like,
yeah.
Karen's like, hey, you were just getting your life back. And this bothered me so much. They're always like, hey, you're just getting your life back. And then Matt's like, this is my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
So this
Leave
is
him alone.
this is related because it's a side character, Stick. The character Stick. I'm guessing he's been in Daredevil.
He's in Daredevil 1 and 2.
Right. He's blind, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't
that's
tell.
who taught Matt. He taught Matt.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
I know that sounds stupid. Maybe I'm just weird about this, but I couldn't tell if he was just like drunk, like he played like a drunky kind of character, or he was blind because he's just kind of like whatever.
Did you see the drunk fight in Iron Fist?
Yes.
Yeah. He fights the drunk guy. I was like, what?
There you go.
That's the most bizarre thing.
Yeah.
No.
The best part about Stick was the scene, not only the scene where he just chops his hand
cool.
off, so
I like that.
whatever about it, but then additionally when he first meets up with the Defenders,
Yeah.
and he's got the sword and he just like puts it on his back and it
Yeah.
just goes somewhere. I was
Right.
where the heck did that thing go? Did
Yeah.
it just slide it through his butt? Like,
He just and then he's the
got
one
like
who
a
decapitates
thing
that
on
dude
his
too.
back. Yeah.
He's like, what?
Yeah, he just like
whatever.
chops. I thought he just cut his neck, but then his head rolled off.
Yeah.
And I was
I
like,
was like,
wow. Yeah. So overall,
I give it a 8. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole season.
I might even go a little higher,
Okay.
like 8.2,
Yeah.
8.3, but definitely B in the B range.
Because I would give Daredevil seasons 1 and 2 closer to the 9, or 9.5 to 9 respectively. And
Yeah.
I'd say maybe an 8.
I'm wondering if I need to catch up on those now because Defenders is kind of like caught everything up.
Yeah. So The Punisher is coming out.
Right. It's a
That
good
should
one
be
to get
coming out this
excited for.
fall, I believe.
Yep.
No, not this fall. This winter? I don't remember when it comes out. Anyway, I'm actually really excited that The Punisher was my favorite part of Daredevil season 2.
Gotcha.
So I'm really pumped about that. I think it should be cool.
He's a huge, popular
Yeah.
character. Definitely a lot of fans excited to see the Punisher
Yeah.
come back for his own show. I watched the movie. I wasn't super impressed by the movie.
Which one? The Thomas
first
Jane
one?
one?
Sorry, yeah, not the second one. The first one.
Well, there was one with Dolph Lundgren way back in the day.
Yeah.
Like the 80s.
Not that one. The one that came out.
Thomas Jane and Travolta.
Yeah, with Travolta.
I kind of like that.
Really?
I think it's a guilty pleasure though. I saw that with my
Gotcha.
dad, and we thought.
So
it
I
was
saw the
cool at
second
time.
one, not the first one. I thought they came out with one after.
Yeah, they did. It was
did they? Okay.
with Ray Stevens. The Punisher's
go.
Warzone.
Right. And I heard that was pretty good, but I didn't see it. No?
It just got I think it just got honest trailered, and it was pretty
did
bad.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did it get Razzied at all?
I don't
Was it
know.
not that bad?
It was either honest trailer
Because
or
I feel
Cinema
like the
Sins.
first Punisher got Razzied.
Maybe.
It was just so ridiculous. That was the big thing about it. I mean, there's just so many ridiculous things too. But anyway, I would just say I'm skeptical of the Punisher as a character.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to them hopefully doing something.
I
And
think
giving
they've
him his
already done
proper-
him justice. I think
justice.
John Bernthal's Punisher that you see in Daredevil season 2 is
Right, but I haven't seen it, so
That's right. But I'm just saying I think he is the what do you call it? The example. I think he's the one that every other Punisher
the
iteration.
epitome. He's the heights of punishing.
Yeah, I think he's it. He's awesome.
Cool.
He's super awesome. So
Well, that's something to look forward to.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, then we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here on the podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. You can definitely get connected to us in a number of different ways. Probably one of the best is on our Facebook, which is facebook.com/realreviewmedia. Definitely a good place to check in with us.
Totes.
Add us a like, give us a like, add us a like. You can also follow us on the Instagram, or the gram as I'm calling it, and Twitter. We are both at Real Review Media.
What's an Instagram? I want one.
Ooh, yeah. There you go. It's an online media thing.
Yes.
That's what it is, Matt.
Okay.
Yep. You can get connected to our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We're also posting a lot of fun stuff there. And we'd love to hear from you. We've talked about a lot of things today, so we would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your perspectives, maybe your sadness over the mourning of Valerian of what's his face, the dragon?
Viserion?
Viserion, yeah.
Yeah.
Valerian is the steel.
Valerian. I thought you were talking of the movie
Mysterion.
Valerian and
No.
the City of a Thousand Planets.
Just taking us way back, going old school, Matt. No, yeah. But yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on anything we've talked about today. So go ahead, drop us an email, which is realreviewmedia@gmail.com. And that's it. So Matt, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, it's been real.
It's been real.